Join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown.
The Haunted School. I went to a school when I was about 8 years old in England that was really haunted. The building itself was probably about 70 years old back then, and it had been around during the war, and parts of it had been destroyed from bombing. And it was just a really creepy building. It was quite big, and everything was kind of made of stone and brick, and including the insides. It wasn't really a very comfortable building. It was always cold, and it was kind of dingy. It had these really high ceilings everywhere, and these really long corridors, and these stone steps that would go up to the classrooms from downstairs. And then it had these really massive cloakrooms, and everything was just kind of stone and just cold and hard stone, and kind of smelt a little bit musty. And anyway, me and my two girlfriends, we were probably about 8, 9 years old at the time. And we used to sense something in that school. We knew there was something there, some kind of ghost or just something just really creepy, but we didn't really know exactly what it was. And anyway, we didn't give it too much attention. And one day we were out in the playground, and the three of us used to hang out together a lot. And there was this kind of stone porch sort of area, and the female toilets were there. And so we just sort of hung out outside the toilet, and we were waiting for my friend who went in, and her name was Judy. Anyway, Judy went in, and there was nobody in those toilets. There were about 4 toilets all in all, just inside that that area, that room. And there was nobody in there, and she went in because she needed to go, and we were just going to wait outside in the porch area for her. And so she went in, and all of a sudden, we heard a scream. She just screamed at the top of her lungs, and we rushed in, and we saw her standing outside the toilet cubicle, and she was holding her finger, and her finger the end of it was all covered in blood, and it was all purple, and it was like it had been kind of partly crushed or something. And she was just screaming hysterically, and we got her out of there, and we asked her what happened, and there was nobody else in the toilets except her, and we didn't see anybody leave or anything or go in there. So we asked her what was the matter, and anyway, she couldn't even speak. So we took her to the nurse and bandaged up her finger, and the nurse asked her what happened, and she just said that she got her finger caught in the door of the toilet of the cubicle. So anyway, afterwards we asked her, how did that happen, and she said that she went in, just went into the toilet, into the toilet cubicle area, and she went to close the door, and she just kind of had her hand on the side of the door, and all of a sudden, the door just slammed against her finger. It was like someone pushed it, because there was no wind or anything that could have done that. It just slammed like someone pushed it, and it was quite a heavy door as well, but it wasn't the kind of door that would have just closed by itself with such force like that. So, and then she said that she was in there and she managed to get her finger out. She opened the door and she was screaming and she got her finger out, but then she couldn't open the door to get out of the toilet itself. The door would not open. It was like someone was holding it shut. And that just terrified her so much, as well as the pain from her finger and just the shock of the whole experience. And eventually the door just gave and it just opened. And that's when she stepped out, and that's when we found her. So anyway, we decided that was probably, something supernatural, because there was absolutely no other explanation. And also, she was kind of sensitive, and she would sometimes see things that the rest of us didn't. Like one day, she in that same school, she saw what she thought was me running up the steps from the bottom of the hallway right up to the top where the classrooms were, and these really big kind of winding steps, this big old house, big old building. And she saw what looked like me, but she said it moved too fast. It couldn't be me because it moved in a way that was not possible, for someone to move that fast. But it was dressed the same as me, and it just was kind of almost like a blur. And so she couldn't make out features, but she knew it was trying to be me. It was pretending to be me. So that really freaked me out when she told me that, because I had not gone anywhere near those stairs. So, it really hadn't been me. And also the fact that she said that this thing just moved so fast that it was like, supernatural. So anyway, that was just a few of the experiences we had in that school. And another time was when the three of us were in the cloakroom, and this is a really big cloakroom. And again, it's kind of a little bit creepy area there. And we were the only ones in there, and it was playtime, so all the kids were outside, And we were just in there, and we were talking about something or other, and we were just getting ready to leave the cloakroom and go outside into the playground. And all of a sudden, we heard what sounded like moaning, like somebody moaning, and it was pretty loud. It wasn't, it wasn't subtle. I mean, it was quite obviously somebody moaning like they were in pain or something. But what was really frightening about it, because, we could have thought, wow, it's just a kid playing around, and we did actually kind of look around. We thought, well, what's that? We kind of looked around, and it wasn't possible for anybody to be hiding there where we wouldn't be able to find them. It just wasn't possible. But the really, really creepy thing that just freaked us out was that it didn't quite sound human, and it definitely did not sound like a kid. And the moaning did not sound like the kind of moaning that a kid could do if he was playing around. So there was something about it. It sounded almost like half human, half animal or something. And just that strange kind of alien sound like that freaked us out so much that we just ran out of there before it even stopped. And it was still going when we ran out of there. So that was among many experiences we had in that school. And we never forgot, that there was just something wrong with that school. And eventually it was actually knocked down. And the other interesting thing that happened after I left the school and I moved on to high school, two of my cousins who were much younger than me, they actually went to that same school. And they said that one day they told me that the guy who used to work there, who was the janitor, he'd been there for many, many years, and he was always a little bit strange. But anyway, he told them, and I'm not sure why he told them this, but he told them one day, he said that he was just so terrified because he had just seen something, and he was going to quit his job because he just couldn't take working there anymore because there was some kind of ghost or something there that was terrifying him. And my two cousins said that one day he actually went in the classroom and he was white as a ghost. And he said that he was leaving. He'd just seen something, it frightened him, and he was leaving right there at that moment. And he was just completely out of balance. Whatever he saw just totally freaked him out. And, the class was just kind of sitting there wondering what is going on. So anyway, he had been there working for many years, but this thing had got so bad that he finally decided to leave. And not too long after that, the school was actually knocked down, and they rebuilt some apartments or something in that area. So something was definitely going on there in that whole building. And, we only found out a little bit more about it later. But it was really a very haunted place. Wow, that's really sounds like definitely a haunted school. I've also experienced going to school in a building that was haunted, and I know what it's like to just feel that sense of just, the heaviness of being in an old building, in a building where something's happened. And who knows? Maybe somebody died there and they're still hanging around. But, it almost sounds like an entity kind of thing more than a ghost. I don't know. Perhaps it's both. But thank God it was knocked down, because it sounds like that was probably the best thing to do anyway. Something chased after my friend. This story happened when I was probably about 18, 19 years old. And I used to hang out with a friend, and we'd go for walks up on the hills close to where we lived. And he was about 18. And we just loved walking up on the hills and, just being around nature. So there was this one hill where we'd quite often go for, long walks. And one day he was up there by himself because I was doing something and I wasn't able to go. So he went walking up there by himself, and he said he was up there, and he was usually quite psychically sensitive to things. And he was up there when he said that suddenly he was just kind of in this wooded area, because it was all pretty wooded up there and there were, no houses. And he was in this wooded area up on the top of the hill. And all of a sudden, he just got this really bad kind of hostile feeling, like there was something there that was really hostile and just didn't want him there. And he just got, the hairs on the back of his neck just stood on end, and he knew he had to get out of there right away because he was in danger. So he just started running. And he said this thing, whatever it was, came running after him at full speed, and it was big. And although he couldn't actually see it with his eyes, he could feel it, and he knew it was coming after him, and he also knew that it was something dangerous. So whatever it was, he could feel its anger, and it did not want him up there. And if it got hold of him, it would try and hurt him. So he ran as fast as he could down the hill, and he felt this thing was still running after him, and it was getting closer and closer, until eventually he got to one place where, for whatever reason, he crossed that threshold, and he felt it disappear, like it just went, like it couldn't go any further past that area. So that was just so terrifying. And when he saw me, when he got to the bottom of the hill and he finally met up with me, I could see that something had happened, something that had really shaken him up. And he wasn't the type to be really very much afraid of entities and stuff or ghosts, but this really got to him because he knew without a doubt. And, you can't really explain these things, but he just knew that this thing had the intention to hurt him. And the other thing, too, is in that area, quite a lot of us kids already sort of knew that there were groups of well-off people that would go there and practice devil worship rituals in those areas up there. And sometimes, we would kind of watch them from behind bushes and stuff. I never did myself, but I always heard that other people did. And so there was something going on up there that was not good. And maybe, just maybe, these people who were up there doing, practicing black magic had called on some kind of entity or something that did not want anybody up there. Suffice it to say, we never returned to that particular area again. Well, I certainly would never walk up in that area again either. In fact, I'd probably stay well away from there. That just sounds like something you don't mess with.